Let's go back to Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis' interview with Newsmax last night with Eric Bolling. For more, let's welcome in Politico reporter Daniel Lippman, for the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, and radio host Christopher Arps. Great to have you all on. Daniel, want to get your take on this interview last night and just the question that everyone has to ask when they have Ron DeSantis on. You've got to ask him about 2024, basically for two reasons. You never know if maybe you'll get the answer that you're looking for. Yes, I'm running. But you think if somebody's not running, they'd let you know that too, wouldn't they?
They would, and all these politicians often keep the door open to stay relevant. I don't think this is a huge ploy just for people to know about the Florida legislative session. I'm sure that's very interesting, but there's a reason that he's on Newsmax and other channels. He is laying the groundwork for a presidential campaign. He would not have written a book and gone on a national book tour to places like Iowa and New Hampshire if that was not on his mind. And also, politicians often have one shot at being presidential material. Look at Chris Christie. He didn't run in 2012. He missed his chance, and now he might run again in 2024. But it's just way too late for some of those people. Yeah,
that's a great point. Betsy, you're a politician, served as lieutenant governor in the state of New York. The same thing happened with John F. Kennedy in the late 1950s. Everybody said, you know, you're too young, now's not the time. He won resounding re-election in the state of Massachusetts. I'm talking about JFK, and then ran. He was in his early 40s, just like Ron DeSantis in 1960, and beat Richard Nixon. Do you think that Ron DeSantis is running, and if he is, could now be the right time for him, the right moment for Ron DeSantis?
It probably is the right moment. He's definitely been in the national spotlight because of his very strong positions in favor of parental rights against the teachers union, and also his ability to govern Florida with in a very cost-effective way with far lower taxes than New York, for example, and better services. So Ron DeSantis is an excellent candidate. He is treading a fine line because a Florida law prohibits the governor from running for president while he's in that office. So he has to get his job done. He has to say he's focusing on legislative victories, and I'm sure he is, but at the same time, maintain his national visibility.
All right, Chris, let's listen to some of the sound. DeSantis last night saying that he is the new sheriff in town.
The elephant in the room, sir, Governor Ron DeSantis, are you running for president in 2024?
I am in the middle of a legislative session. We've got a lot of great stuff. You're going to hear a lot. Maybe I can come back on your show and talk about a lot of the wins. So we're going to be doing that over the next few months, and that's going to be my focus. And we get on the other side of that, you know, we'll see what happens, and we'll be happy to let you know either way. I think what we've been able to do is really set things, not just have superficial policy victories, but have victories that are going to really, really change. I think we've realigned the foundations of the state of Florida. The old establishment is dead, and we've really created a new sheriff in town. And I think that's going to be really taking us far beyond me and probably into the next decade and beyond.
Okay, so Chris, how do you read that? When he says that, is he referring to himself?
I think what you're seeing here is what Nikki Haley is doing and what Ron DeSantis is doing when you have a front runner who is 78 years old, is you want to paint yourself as a new generational leader. He has a strong background of doing that. He won re-election in Florida by 20 points. He has a very strong social agenda that he is getting passed in the Florida legislature. And as the Lieutenant Governor said, he has to be very coy with his pronouncements right now because there is a law that's pending to change a law that says that he can run for president while as governor. So I think he's being coy, but I think the worst kept secret in American politics is that Ron DeSantis is running for president.
No, I agree with you. And Daniel, to your original point, we're only talking to and about Ron DeSantis. We're no longer talking about the 20-point win in November. He's relevant because I think everyone thinks that he's a candidate for the presidency. Take a listen to what he had to say about this possible Trump indictment.
What are your thoughts on this whole process of indicting the former president? And if he is indicted, should the public protest?
So I think that this guy Bragg, as the Manhattan DA, He's a Soros-funded prosecutor, and he's not alone in the country. We've seen an epidemic of these guys. But what these guys do is they get into office, and it's not about the rule of law. It's not about equal justice under law. It's about weaponizing the prosecutorial power to advance their agenda. And so absolutely, they will use that power to excuse crimes, which Bragg does on a daily basis, while then trying to use that same power to go after people based on selective prosecution and political grounds. So, I don't know what's going to happen. There's been a lot of speculation about it, but I think weaponizing the prosecutorial power of government to be able to go after opposing politicians or people you don't like is fundamentally wrong.
All right. So, Daniel, interesting there. We've seen some pivots. Now it's you've got to defend Donald Trump. DeSantis also backtracked comments that he made about Ukraine. He had called it a territorial dispute. Now he's been very clear about clarifying that and calling Vladimir Putin a war criminal. And there was this uproar earlier this week that every Republican in elected office doesn't come out and defend Donald Trump. And if they don't, they're somehow disloyal. And I'm looking at it like, hey, Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, they're opponents. Maybe DeSantis isn't officially a candidate, but the second he officially becomes a candidate, they're running against each other. What do you make of this narrative out there that it's somehow disloyal if DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy don't all immediately come to the former president's defense?
Yeah, it would be totally against their self-interest to be part of Trump's outside campaign legal defense team. And so you can't, politicians, they think about what's best for numero uno. And so it is, DeSantis is being as conciliatory to Trump by talking about Bragg and George Soros as he can, but he can't totally be backing Trump, or why is he running in the first place? There was I think the Today Show asked Nikki Haley when she was launching her presidential bid, did you ask Trump for permission to run? I'm like thinking, that's not, what other question gets asked like that? When do you ask your opponent for permission to run against them?
Yeah, we haven't seen that before. We'll leave it there. Daniel Lippman, Christopher Arps, Betsy McCoy, thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll pick this back up next week.